Good evening. It's now 5:30 p.m. on Monday, August the 12th, 2019, and I'm now calling this meeting of the City Council of Paris to order. The invocation tonight will be from Gene Anderson, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Portugal. Everyone stand, please.
May we pray? Heavenly Father, we thank you for each and every blessing that you give us. We thank you for your watch care. And Father, we praise your name for who you are and all that you've done in creation and elsewise. And we just pray, Father, that you would meet with us tonight and you would guide and direct our elected officials, Father, to do that which is right in your eyes. And we just pray, Father, for our city, that it would prosper and that it would grow. And Father, we might do great things. For we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next is a citizens forum. Persons desiring to address the council must limit the presentation to no more than 2 minutes. Unless an item is posted on the agenda, the Texas Open Meetings Act prohibits the council from responding to any comments other than to refer the matter to a future agenda, to an existing policy, or to a staff person with specific factual information. Claims against the city, council members, or employees, as well as individual personal appeals, are not appropriate for citizens forum. The citizens forum is now open. Anyone wishing to address the council, please step up. Give us your name and address, and you'll have 2 minutes. You want to talk? Go ahead. No, we're gonna have the presentation in just a minute. Thank you. Okay, anyone else wishing to talk to us other than the baseball team, which we're going to honor here shortly? Okay, the citizens forum is now closed, which brings us to the next item. This is a proclamation honoring the Paris All-Stars baseball team 9 and under Youth World Series champions. Whereas the City Council of Paris, Texas is proud to recognize the achievements of citizens of our community, and whereas the 2019 Paris All-Stars 9U baseball team spent countless hours practicing in preparation for the All-Star baseball season, and whereas the Paris All-Stars began their trek at the Dixie All-Star District Tournament by defeating Sulphur Springs and Mount Pleasant and advancing to the state tournament in Texarkana, after which they went on to defeat Hudson, Bullard, and Splendora, placing second in state and advancing to the World Series. And whereas the 2019 Paris All-Stars 9U defeated 7 teams in Brookhaven, Mississippi, and won the Youth World Series Championship, bringing this title to Paris, Texas. And whereas members of the championship team are Aiden Curtis, Avery Curtis, Kai Fortner, Kai Furch, Callan Gallahan, Pierce Keenum, Ryder Moray, Luke Nutt, Logan Scholl, Gunnar Turman, and Noah Williams. And whereas the team is a highly competitive group of student athletes with strong character and integrity, it is one of the best baseball teams in Paris history. And whereas the 2019 Paris All-Stars 9U baseball team was under the outstanding leadership of head coach Troy Scholl and assistant coaches Mackie Maury and Bo Galligan. And therefore, be it resolved that I, Stephen J. Clifford, Mayor of the City of Paris, Texas, along with the City Council, do hereby honor the 2019 Paris All-Stars 9 and under baseball team on this day, August 12th, 2019, for winning the 2019 Youth World Series Championship. Congratulations. Stay up here. All y'all come on up here. Stay up here. Congratulations. 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 Fantastic. Way to go. Way to go. Way to go. Congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Great, there's a girl on there.
Is everyone a captain of the team? Okay, we'll get it to all of them. I'll just... Coaches, yeah, I'm sorry. Come on here, coaches. You gotta get behind me.
I need them to turn sideways so they can scooch up a little bit.
Congratulations.
That dang was just perfect.
While the mayor's walking around, I want to just mention that two of these kids are children of employees of the city, and one of the coaches is one of ours. So we're proud of them especially. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next is the consent agenda. Does anyone have an item on the consent agenda that they wish to pull for additional discussion? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion here.
I
Motion
move we accept the consent agenda as is.
and a second. All in favor? Okay. On item number 10, the public hearing is still open on this item. And I think we're still missing a council member, and it does require a supermajority to pass this. So I think we're going to do what we did last time and keep the public hearing open, and what's the language, defer it to?
Need a motion to keep the public hearing open to the next council meeting of August 26th.
I move we keep the public hearing open until a date certain, August 26th.
Okay.
I second that.
Second, all in favor? Okay. Next is item number 11, discuss, conduct a public hearing, and act on a resolution authorizing the application for Justice Assistant Grant Program number 2019-H3821-TX-DJ in the amount of $12,210 and authorizing an interlocal agreement with Lamar County. Chief, you want to fill us in on this?
Mr. Mayor, Council, this is a yearly grant that we're afforded by the Department of Justice. We split it 50-50 with Lamar County. The police department's going to be using the funds to buy some technology that will automatically connect our body cameras and patrol car cameras to the case number. It may not sound like much, but it is, because every time we have a recording, officer physically has to go in and put a case number, date and time and all that, and this software will automatically timestamp it and all that. So it's just an efficiency move. Sheriff's Office is going to buy a couple of FLIR, forward-looking infrared devices for use in the patrol division, and some anti-suicide smocks and a restraint smock for use in the Lamar County Jail. There's no impact to our budget. It's no cash match, just straight up $12,210.
Anybody have any questions? All right, any discussion or just a motion?
I'll move that we accept the,
Oh, I got to have public hearing. Okay. The public hearing is now open. Anyone wishing to discuss this item, please come up and identify yourself. And okay, we've done the public hearing. The public hearing is now closed. Now I'll entertain any discussion and/or a motion. All right, I'll go ahead.
I move we make a resolution authorizing the application.
I'll second that. All in favor? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item number 12, discuss and act on the Paris Economic Development Corporation's fiscal year 2019-20 budget. Mr. Paris.
Good afternoon, everybody.
How you doing, sir?
Good deal. Oh, too quiet. I'd like to present to you the budget for the Paris Economic Development Corporation for the year 2019 and 20. What we have sent you is the budget that we had this last year and also what we are budgeting for this year. And if you would allow, I'd like to discuss some of the changes that we're making with that budget. If you see the personnel seems to be pretty much in line with what we had last year. There's a 2% increase overall. That 2% is part of the that there's no salaries that have changed or anything of that nature. I do know that our workers' comp is going to go up a little bit, as well as some of the insurance benefits. But other than that, everything is pretty stable. In the administrative cost, if you look at overall, we are still around probably $300 more than what we were last year. We are still going to keep the machinery and equipment at $12,000. If you recall, we keep that as a separate item just in case some of the air conditioning units run out or something big expense takes place there. We have that available for us to use. In years previous, we have not used that budget. I believe last year we used it to get a copier. So that's what we use that line item for. If you look at the marketing and promotion, we're pretty much going to keep that the same. There is a small increase of about $5,000, but the $10,000 that was used for Lamar County Days, which we set aside every other year, we're going to go ahead and slip that down into the marketing, and we're going to use that with some helping skills development in the community. What we want to do is do some smaller promotional videos to encourage folks to go into the trades, the plumbing, HVAC, of course, welding, and of course, we're looking at the possibility of maybe even looking at pipe fitting as well. So we're going to use some of that to incorporate that, but we will probably pull back from that to move back to Lamar County's Days for this next year, since it's every other year. If you look at the job training, since I've been here, slowly the work keys has subsided. It seems like less and less people are taking the work keys assessment. Campbell Soup is still using work keys, and I still think they're using that in their evaluation process as they look for candidates to hire through Campbell Soup. But we decided to go ahead and eliminate that. We haven't had any expenses with that probably in the last couple of years, and so we wanted to move that aside. Usually, every year, Texas Workforce Commission will send out a matching grant request, and the communities or EDCs that want to get involved with participating in a matching grant to get a CNC machine or some welding equipment or things of that nature. Years previous, we've helped Paris Junior College with a matching grant with CNC machines. And so we want to go ahead and set that up. And I understand through talking to the Texas Workforce Commission, it looks like they may be coming out with a matching grant again this coming year. So if you look at direct business incentives, you will see the markout that we have with American Spire Weld, the upfront cash that we set up for them to bring them to Paris, Texas. And you see, obviously, for this next upcoming budget, that is not included. But you also see the American Spire Weld jobs. If you recall on the master agreement for American Spire Weld, their initial job creation is 60 positions. And then if they move past 60, they have access to other cash available to them if they add another 60 positions up to 120. We do not project that those funds will be used this next year, but it is in that master agreement. We want to make sure that you know that it is. We have to set that aside and encumber that for American Spire Weld in case, but at least you know it's a part of that budget. The rail lead master agreement also set up also allows for $1 million of reimbursement for the rail lead for American Spire Weld. If you recall, that rail lead is from the Hudumaki switch all the way through Center Street, crossing 19th off into the American Spire Weld property. So we have that set aside a part of our budget for this year as well. The PEDC board also has moved us in a direction to approve the Hudumaki rail request. Hudumaki is actually looking at incorporating rail into their plant, and so it's not part of that Center Street progress, but it is part of that line coming down from the north. And so we're hoping to take to our Paris Economic Development Corporation meeting this 20th of this month to have that finalized for review. You also will see the J. Skinner rail development. The Paris Economic Development Board also set aside $300,000 from that spur that comes off of Center Street up into the J. Skinner property. If you recall, the Paris Economic Development Board helped incentivize that to help try to bring another company that would work in-house in the plant to use some of that capacity. That other plant called D6 is already in the plant, and they're creating clamshells, the plastic clamshells that are being used for those Danishes and such there at J. Skinner. So we are setting that aside, and that is a reimbursement once that rail is developed. And then Daisy Dairy, you see the costs that we had budgeted for last year and budgeted this year. We did not spend the Daisy Dairy amount last year, and we do not project to spend it again this year, but we are obligated if they meet those criteria. And at this time, they have not met those criteria. They're doing a really good job. I found out that they're doing a good business out there. They've done a lot to eliminate their costs in regards to water and some of the labor. So they're doing really good. They just haven't met the obligations they originally had set up for that agreement. Any questions on the business incentives? Okay. If I can move on to debt service. If you recall, you had helped approve the original amount for purchasing the Southwest Business Park. If you recall, we purchased 150 acres inside the loop, and so we took advantage of debt service. The PEDC, when we first purchased the property, we spent around $67,000 in cash to get everything secured, and then we used debt service to purchase the rest of that business park. If you also recall, the $1 million, or should I say back to that $1.5 million that was given to American Spireweld up front, $1 million of that was set into debt service. $500,000 was taken out of the reserves for the PEDC. So we took advantage of debt service there, but you can see for the year what the debt service will look like for this next budget year of $148,000. Just to kind of give you a little bit of insight, that $148,000 that will be spent compared to the revenue of 1.4, we estimate around 1.464, is around 10% of our revenue. So we feel like that we're healthy in that context of our debt service and the revenue that is coming in. New industry projects. American Spireweld, we are designated, according to the master agreement, to transfer that brownfield property to American Spireweld in October. And so we are finishing up the phase 2. I don't know if you've driven by there, but the demolition is complete. Everything's looking good. A couple of snafus, but nothing that can't be finished and accomplished. And then we should have that done well within time to transfer that property in October for American Spireweld. But we set aside that $200,000 to help with to finish the phase 2 of that project, the environmental, so to speak. Also, too, you will see, let me make sure I don't have my glasses on, the Southwest Business Park. The City Council and the Paris Economic Development Board approved $1.1 million. We've only have spent a little less than $1 million. And so the remainder, $320,000, is to finish the development of that business park. Initially, we are going to start clearing that property up, taking the trees down, taking the fence line down, start putting some signage up to say we're open for business. Want to get that done as soon as possible. Currently, probably with September, we hope to have consultants present to us 3 different ideas as to what we want to do with that business park, but more importantly, what the infrastructure is going to look like. And that $320,000 is set up for that infrastructure development as well. Around the North Business Park, that 140 acres we gave American Spireweld, we have had some folks knock on our door interested. If you recall, you have the park, and then if you keep going west on the loop, you have 33rd Street. Did I say that right? 33rd or 31st? That little small, kind of a back road looking road right there. Well, just on the other side of that, on the loop, frontage, is PEDC's property, and it's not clean. Nobody knows it's available or anything, and so we want to start cleaning up some of that property there that could be useful in getting people interested in it. But also, too, the property that is along 19th Street, there's a little church right there, and I can't remember what street that is, but you come down 19th from Potter's Industry, and then we have property back up in there that's full of trees. And so there's a lot of people don't realize this, but there's a lot more property that the EDC owns that we really are not articulating to the community because it's not ready to be seen. And so we want to make sure that if there's any assets that we have that they are marketable for business or to be purchased in the community. And so that being the case, we set aside $180,000 to start cleaning up that property as well, and maybe do some environmental, preliminary environmental on that. Any questions on new industry projects? So you can see here the estimated taxed income to that middle column at the very bottom. You see 1.464, and if you see there, you see estimated surplus, and you see 2.397. Keep in mind, $1 million of that will probably not be spent this year, but also too, we're looking at some one-time capital costs that are going to be used for the business park development, as well as some of the property cleanup that needs to take place. But we see ourselves in really good shape, and we have a really good plan of how we go about preparing our assets for future development. Any questions on the budget?
What's the PEDC's total loan balance that they've borrowed?
We finished paying off the bond this past year that we had. So the debt service that you see right now that we currently have is $148,000 that were, should I say, projected.
That's the debt service. What's the amount of the loan that you're paying that service on?
The amount of the loan, let's see, $1 million and $697, so around $1.7 million.
So y'all borrowed $1.7 million.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
All right.
I have a question about the rail developments. I heard, I could be wrong, but I remember somewhere that there was a partnership between maybe some of these businesses for the rail development. They were going to pay some, and PEDC was going to pay for some. Is this just PEDC's part, or were they unable to come up with their part?
This
of
is
the rail
PEDC's
development?
part.
Okay.
We're still looking for other investment, but I don't know if you recall, but in that meeting that we had to approve the rail, we decided that we want to make sure that rail was done because that was part of our obligation.
I knew we were going to do that for American Spiral
yeah,
Weld. Yes,
yeah.
sir. I remember that. But the other companies like Hutamaki and Jay Skinner, I thought they were going to kind of kick in some as well. Is that not?
That's not the case.
Okay,
We did
gotcha.
that for retention of those businesses, and we also, for Jay Skinner, we did that for the recruitment of that current business that has moved in.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
How much money does the PEDC have in the bank right now in cash?
I'd say, if I remember, Tim, it was around 4.2 million in reserves.
In the bank right now? Okay.
And the way we look at that is if we have another big company come here, we're staged with cash to help recruit that big company coming in. At the same time, if we have even some smaller companies come in, we're staged with cash. And that's the reason we're trying to look for a good balance of.
My question, it doesn't seem to be terribly good business practice to have that much cash in the bank, and from the same bank that you've deposited that cash in, you're now borrowing your own money back and paying an interest rate on it. It would seem that it would be more reasonable to use your cash rather than borrow your own money against yourself. I mean, I can be your bank for that. I'd be happy to do that, but it just seems
The business practice we're trying to follow is freeing up equity. And
but I mean, you could get a loan from a bank in a heartbeat in this town. I guarantee you could, and literally a phone call and you'd have it. And it just seems to me that you're losing money, paying interest on money that when you've got millions of dollars in the bank, and yet you manage to borrow almost $2 million back from a bank that it just doesn't seem sound business practice to me. I had a problem with that, and I still think that doesn't make sense, because I understand the liquidity would be nice, but on the other hand, PEDC is not going to have problems borrowing money. One phone call, one trip across town, literally same day, I suspect you would get whatever money you needed. So that's just an issue I have with this.
if you'd like, we can express that with the board, absolutely.
Well, I bring it up just to mention. It doesn't sound to me, but otherwise I have no problem with this. So
Does the PEDC not hold a guarantee of a rather large loan for another company somewhere? Is that represented anywhere in here?
No, ma'am. In fact, we do have a guarantee on a loan with Paris Warehouse, owned by the HWH Group. And so that, as I understand it, the EDC had some cash go to that Paris Warehouse at one time. That had been completed, but there was a loan that was taken out, and of course the EDC is offering a guarantee on that loan. So our financials, when we do our audit, shows that.
Oh, gotcha.
And
Okay.
and we make sure that we acknowledge that. The one thing that was not in place was some type of performance agreement, or at least there was one, and there is one, but there really wasn't. So what I started doing a couple years ago is I went ahead and started writing a letter to HWH, and we ask, which the performance agreement allows us to do, we ask if they are in good standing with their bank and they're making their payments in a timely fashion, because if we're making a guarantee, it's our responsibility to make sure they're in good standing. We have received a letter last year, and just probably in the last few weeks, we received another letter that they are in good standing with that bank and making
good.
payments.
Okay. So there's not any reason to have something just put away, just like you did for the perhaps use of, some of these other intended expenditures for, that you've got budgeted in that you don't expect to use, but you got it
We
just
don't
in
expect
case.
it, but it's always
Right.
there.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that's the reason I'm doing or should I say doing an assessment, because we want to make sure that whatever risk is involved, that we're prepared for that risk.
Okay, good.
And as the mayor just suggested, even if it's going to be running out in 2020 or 2022, so in the next couple of years, and so we won't be obligated after that date. But worst case scenario, we can always look at debt if we had to help with guaranteeing that.
I got you. Well, thank you so
But
much.
the risk is minimal
I'm
so
good.
far with that guarantee.
I appreciate it. Any other questions for Mr. Paris?
Thank you so much for your support. It's good to see this community really taking a good forward motion in our recruitment and our development. And I cannot thank you guys enough for what y'all have done the past couple of years to really help make that happen. And I'm hoping that we'll be in front of you again here in the next few weeks with some other good requests before you. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? If not, we need a motion on this.
I'll make a motion to approve the PEDC 2019-2020 budget.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Okay. All right. Item number 13, discuss revisions to the property management ordinance. John, is this yours?
Yes, sir. Items 13 and 14 are both attempts to look at opportunities to improve the look and the feel of the town. That's been a high priority for the council for quite some time now. And item 13 specifically is in response to some of the discussions we had at a council work session back up about 2 months ago, and some other discussions as well. Property management code was actually adopted in July of last year, 2018, and so we're looking at maybe expanding that. Both of these items, 13 and 14, are both discussion items only. 14, if we go forward with that, we'll go back to the Planning and Zoning Commission if need be. 13 will be something we'd bring back to the City Council the next couple of weeks, or next couple of meetings rather. And kind of just real simply, two major types of changes. One is that it would be expanded to owner-occupied housing. The current property management code covers only rentals, single-family rentals. And so it's pretty restrictive, and that was on purpose because it was something new. It was additional requirements, and we wanted to kind of do that on purpose and go slow at first. It's been over a year, and so we want to expand that, or at least discuss or consider expanding that. One of the big things is owner-occupied housing. There's a lot of things in the existing code that we'd like to enforce those, but that's not covered, and so we get a lot of those complaints, a lot of those questions, and it's just simply not covered. The second thing is possibly expanding the scope of what is allowed, and there's basically 12 things, and I'll go through those real quickly. Weatherproofing, flashing, gutters, roof drains, overhangs, exterior wood, exposed metal, masonry joints, siding, insect rodent infestation, substandard fencing, and vegetation penetrating walls and roofs. Sometimes it's trees, a lot of times it's vines. Again, here, just like before, we're still after, for the most part, we're after things that will over time destroy the envelope of the building or penetrate the envelope of the building. I mean, last time we emphasized doors and windows and sewer and electricity and so forth, but that will damage the envelope of the building so that bugs or rats or water, especially water, elements get inside of a building, and that eventually leads it to where it can't be saved. It has to be repaired. And we have so many demolitions in town, and we've talked about that before too, that on the one hand, it's good that we're getting rid of a lot of substandard buildings, but every time we have to tear the house down, it's a failure to some extent that it ever got that far. And this is one of those tools that can help us. This is not a horrible, terribly onerous thing, I don't believe, but it is 12 additional things that are not in the code now, so it's significant. You might like none of them, you might like all of them, you might like 7 out of 12. Two things that are kind of obvious. One is that it does increase the workload if it's adopted. We've got the same number of code enforcement officers. We have one included in the recommended budget, so we'll be adding somebody later on. But right now, we've still got 2 officers in the field on a regular basis, and then one that's on there every now and then, the supervisor. So it is additional work. The other thing that's different is, if we're talking about mowing, if we're talking about demolition, if we're talking about certain things, we have the ability to fix those things ourselves. We can mow the grass, we can cut down a dead tree or have somebody do it for us. We can have somebody demolish the house. But for the most part, these are things that if we find a violation and we send a letter and the owners do not respond, we can't go abate them. And so just, that's neither good nor bad, but just that's kind of the rest of the story. If we send somebody a letter and they don't mow their yard, then we can go mow the yard for them and send them a bill. We don't have the ability to go fix gutters or fix foundations or do a lot of these other kinds of things. A few of them, like cutting the trees that's growing through the roof or cutting the vines that are penetrating the soffits, those kinds of things we can do or have someone do, but a lot of these are not the kinds of things that we can do ourselves. So just be aware of that. And again, this is just a discussion item. Get some feedback from you if you want us to proceed with any of this or none of this or all of this, or and we'll either bring it back to you at a future meeting, probably in September, or we won't. And that's all I have.
All right. Any questions or discussion on this? Go ahead.
Of course, I'm in favor of this kind of thing since my district has got a lot of this issue going on. How does the staff find out about structures like this? They drive around in the car and look, or are they
No.
allowed to receive citizens' comments?
No, almost all of our code enforcement responses are through complaints. We don't have the staff, again, with 2 folks, we don't have the staff for them to ride and look for things. Of course, it's not that hard to find, but no, we're almost always responsive as opposed to proactive.
Okay. Thank you.
John, my question is, I mean, I got a lot of complaints this term that code enforcement came out of people that have purchased the empty lots that, through the sales.
Right.
And they basically use it for extra parking or something, and they keep it mowed. I mean, it's nice and neat.
Right.
But because there's no structure there, they're being fined or asked to move their car when they felt like they were doing something good for the city because their neighborhood they keep it clean, they mow it
Right.
and everything, but if they can't park on it, then they have no use for it, so they bought it for nothing.
Yeah, and that's an issue I've just become aware of the last couple of weeks. We've had an ordinance for a long time that you have to park on pavement.
Yes.
Asphalt or concrete. And so folks have bought these lots, they're taking care of them, which is great, but they're parked in the grass.
Yes.
And I don't know, like I said, I just in the last week or two found out kind of that happened a lot over there. And I'm not sure what the solution is off the top of my head. I don't want to just say too bad, because I don't want people to think we tricked them, because in a lot of cases they acquired those lots from us. There were lots that we had seized and sold at tax sales. But we also need to enforce our ordinance. I talked to one gentleman, he came to the P&Z meeting last week, Keon Mitchell.
Mitchell, yes.
He's got a kind of a paved area on his, and he's taking care of a lot that's not even his. As long as it's, you're parked on that paved area and it's your own personal vehicle, because he's a mechanic too, I think, over
Yes.
there. But that just take care of one of them. So anyway, I'm rambling, but I don't know the answer to that particular thing. But that's something we need to work through and figure out if that we can make an exception for that, or what we can do for those folks. Because if we push, this is an example of sometimes you have to use a judgment call, but you have to be careful. You don't want to set precedent in other areas. But if we tell those people, you've got to move those cars, which we're in the process of doing, they're going to quit mowing the grass, and we're going to be right back
Yes.
where we want. And so would I rather have a mowed lot with a car on it? Yes, I would, rather than the other way around. I don't have the authority to do that, so that's something we may need to come back to you guys on, at some point.
And with
too.
him in particular, he also has a business right beside his house.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, he fenced it off like the ordinance has the back. Now, the front part, he's parking on someone's property, but they know he keep it clean for him. He mows it.
Right.
And so the code enforcement told him he could park in the street. Well, a car got hit, one of his customer cars got hit the very next day he put it there. Because someone came through, hit it, and ran.
Yeah.
And, I mean, luckily he had cameras up, so police is investigating it and everything, but the street there on Third First.
First, yeah.
Is just too narrow.
Yes,
for him
it's
to
awfully narrow to
even-
have a bunch of folks parked out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was one of the things. I mean, then he, like I say, he manicures all the lots around there, even the ones he don't own.
Yeah, I know he's taking care of a lot of them now, which is
Yeah,
great.
so-
That's the kind of thing we want to encourage.
Encourage, yes.
And we don't want to punish them for something else, or they're going to not want to help us. And that may be something, if we bring this back, and I'm guessing we're probably going to, if we bring this back, that maybe that's something we can add to this somehow to, I don't know, permit it or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
That we can, there's a structure for granting exceptions within the ordinance itself. And we'll have to think that through. We'll talk about that as a staff and see what we can
Yes,
come
sir.
up with.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
go
have just a couple of comments. I think that this does point to the success of the initial rental maintenance ordinance that we passed, and also that this would be a good step in keeping our city looking better. I know there are several things that are available where we couldn't, as the city, go in and do repairs, but I know once a year, there's called the Methodist Army
Right.
that comes to town. If they've been cited for a violation that they can't repair, can't afford to, or not able to, that's one resource. Also, Brush with Kindness, they do minor repairs as well as paint. So, I don't like to pass something we can't enforce, but if there are other options, we can.
Right, and of course, we've talked about that new position that's also in the recommended budget, and that new position will be responsible for kind of coordinating those things and getting those different groups of people, because there's lots of volunteer folks out there that are already volunteering, and others that are able to volunteer if there's a program for them to do so. And that's I think, super key to success long-term in this, is to change how things work and how things are done, to get those volunteers involved. If they're organized and doing those kinds of things. Some people just don't do it because they just don't want to, as we've talked about. Some people just can't, and those are the ones we really want to help.
Yeah. I know when the mayor and I met with the president of Turner Industries, he indicated they really like to get involved and with helping in the community, and they would like to challenge some of the other industry in town. We'll get this many houses done, see if you can get that many houses repaired.
That'd be great. Makes a big difference.
Well, regarding this item, I kind of think it's probably a pretty good idea. It looks like the goal of this is to prevent houses from ever reaching the point where they need to be demolished, rather than wait until they get there and then demolishing them. So certainly, there's some reasonable things in here. I wouldn't mind moving forward with this.
Of course, the key is going to be enforcement.
Yeah.
That's going to be the key, enforcement and follow-up.
Any discussion on this? All right, let's move on to item number 14. This is discuss possible restrictions on storage containers. Mr. Godwin.
Mayor and council, this is one that's, I guess I would describe what I have, the attachment to you in a little bit more of a draft form. But storage containers, by their nature, are meant to be, for the most part, temporary, and sometimes they stay around for years and centuries. And part of that's just times have changed, and I remember working in cities that when some of these first came out, the pods and some of those first came out, a lot of cities just outlawed them completely, or you could have them for 90 days and that was it. But again, times have kind of changed. They're different. They're used differently. So we're not trying to outlaw them or limit them completely, but limit the numbers of them, how many can be at a particular property, especially in residential areas, put them behind fences, just like we treat sheds and barns and so forth and so on. In fact, one of the conditions we've recommended is it has to be 10 feet from the property line, can have no effect on the drainage, has to be on an improved surface, can be no more than 8 feet 6 inches high, no more than 10 feet wide, no more than 20 feet long. So it can't be ginormous, not a real common council word, but ginormous. And then we talked to have a provision here on I think the last page of this section 13. Section 13 is an existing section in our code, and all the text in black is current law, and so the blue is just the suggestions. And so you see there's not a huge number at the beginning of page 1 and page 4. But seasonal, what we want to do there is these are for businesses, so that the business that sells flowers in the spring or the summer, we don't want to accidentally step on their toes, because that's certainly makes sense. That's part of spring and summer, is seeing the Walmart selling flowers out front. I don't think anybody's reasonably offended by that, or that's a problem. And 90 days may not be the perfect day, and talk to the city engineer just this afternoon and try to set a meeting with some of those folks to make sure that what we're doing fits what they do, so that we don't prohibit any behavior accidentally. Another area is just security, safety, and that's kind of something that's in a lot of other cities' ordinances. It probably doesn't come up too often, but to make sure that they're set in a way that if it's a really windy day, they don't blow away or blow over or hit something or to cause damage or any safety or security issues. And then finally, the last thing there on that last page is that portable structures can only be located as a permanent structure on a non-residential property within the city if it's completely behind the facade, so the front of the building. Doesn't have to be necessarily hidden, but you can't put it out in front. You don't want to have we'll make it really obvious. You don't want to have a great-looking downtown building that's been renewed, and then somebody puts a trailer in front of it or a pod in front of it. If they have to have one to store their materials or to store their whatever, that's okay, but put it behind the building, not in the front. Kind of like talking about the same thing in residential areas. So that's kind of all we've got. The only new restrictions, I think they're all reasonable. I think some of them may need to kind of tweak a little bit, to talk to some people, see, well, is this going to cause you a problem or whatever? But we'd like to proceed now. This is one that will need to go to Planning and Zoning Commission first, because it'll be an amendment to the subdivision regs. But if you're okay with that, whatever feedback you give us.
Will it restrict us on, because there's a lot of these moving companies, especially moving out of long distance areas, that put all their stuff in these pods and then bring them, and they'll set them in the front, or set them in front of the garage for a couple days. That doesn't restrict that, does it?
Should not. Well, maybe.
Yeah, that was going to be my question too, because a lot of people use these for moving. Yeah. And it's very temporary. They plop down in their driveway and they move everything into it, and then the company picks it up and moves it. Right. So I wouldn't want to restrict that.
Yeah, I need to clarify that. In fact, that's one of the things we actually talked about, was that I know a couple of places in town where somebody's done that and it's been there for a few years.
Yeah, that's different.
So
we want to
distinguish between those two. Right. And that's just a timeline we can do with that.
Okay. And again, I think this looks good too. I'll proceed on with it with planning and zoning as far as I'm concerned.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this? All right. Item number 15, convene into executive session pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code, consultation with attorney to receive legal advice about pending or contemplated litigation and/or on matters in which the duty of an attorney to his or her client under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflict with this chapter regarding Parish Regional Medical Center tax abatement and city manager, and section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code, personnel matters, to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public official, to wit, city manager. It is now 6:13, and we're going into executive session. Okay, it is 9:23, and we're out of executive session. We had a discussion with our lawyer regarding the PRMC abatement, and we also had a discussion about the city manager.
Mayor?
Yes.
I make the motion that we suspend John Godwin as city manager, City of Paris, effective immediately.
Got a motion?
I second the motion.
All right, all in favor? All opposed? Okay. All right. Future events, item 17.
Yes, sir. I'd like to see something placed on the agenda regarding the Belford Apartments. We either need to put it back on auction, and I even suggest we lower the price a little bit so that we can get something done about it. It's disgraceful. I understand that there was a sale pending and that sale has not gone through. The place has just continued to deteriorate. Trees, brush, it's just, people are going in and out of it, and it's just disgraceful. So I would like to make attempts to put it back on the auction.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
And I want to, future agenda, speak with Stephanie about what we can do as far as HR department in the city, how we can improve our HR department.
All right. Motion for adjournment.
I
Make a
so
motion.
move.